What if I told you a single human being could own more wealth than entire countries and still never spend it all before they die? Sounds impossible, but it already happened. The first $100 billion fortune changed the rules of reality. Suddenly, money stopped feeling like numbers and started feeling like power. The kind of power that can reshape cities, by governments, and possibly change the future of humanity itself. But here's the strange part. Most people can't even visualize what $100 billion actually means. A million seconds is about 11 days. A billion seconds is over 31 years. So 100 billion? That's more time than recorded human civilization. And that's where things get weird. Because with that kind of money, normal luxury becomes meaningless. Forget sports cars. Forget mansions. You could buy around 250 Boeing 747 jets and launch your own global airline overnight. You wouldn't wait in airports anymore. Airports would wait for you. But that's not even the craziest part. You could theoretically purchase an entire country with a smaller economy than your fortune. Imagine waking up and casually owning land, beaches, forests, and millions of lives tied to your decisions. And that's when the question changes. At first, it sounds fun. What would you buy? A palace? A private island? The rarest art collection on Earth? But then another question appears. Could one person ever deserve that much power? Because history shows something terrifying. The richer someone becomes, the less they're buying objects, and the more they're buying influence. What happens next changes everything. At a certain point, wealth stops being about comfort. It becomes about control. And $100 billion gives you control over things most people never even think about. You could own the Palace of Versailles, the White House, Buckingham Palace, and still have billions left over. Entire symbols of history could become part of your personal collection. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. You could also buy influence over entertainment, politics, and even global culture. With enough money, attention itself becomes a product. And this is where it gets weird. Sports franchises worth billions suddenly become pocket change. You could buy every NFL team, then move on to baseball, hockey, and European football clubs like it's a shopping spree. But while all of this sounds unreal, there's a twist nobody talks about. The same amount of money that buys luxury beyond imagination could also solve massive human suffering. $100 billion could send hundreds of thousands of students through college. It could triple foreign aid budgets. It could fund food, medicine, and protection for vulnerable populations across more than 100 countries. And that's when the entire story flips. Because suddenly the question isn't, what can money buy? It becomes, why are so many global problems still unsolved? But that's not even the darkest part. Experts estimate only a tiny fraction of that fortune could dramatically reduce world hunger and protect ecosystems already collapsing under climate pressure. So imagine realizing that problems destroying millions of lives might actually be financially solvable, while unimaginable wealth sits concentrated in the hands of a few individuals. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Now the fantasy starts turning into something else. Because $100 billion doesn't just reveal what's possible. It reveals what humanity values most. Think about it. The same money used for mega yachts, private armies, and luxury collections could also save ecosystems, prevent starvation, and accelerate scientific breakthroughs for generations. And here's the strangest contradiction of all. The people with the power to change the world often became rich by mastering systems that reward profit first and humanity second. That tension sits at the center of everything. Some billionaires pledge massive donations through movements like charitable giving campaigns. Billions have already been promised toward health, education, and poverty reduction. But there's an unsettling question hiding underneath all of it. Should the future of humanity depend on voluntary generosity from a handful of ultra-rich individuals? Because what happens if they choose not to help? And this is where things get truly unsettling. For most of history, kings controlled nations. Today, private wealth can rival governments themselves. One fortune can influence technology, media, energy, medicine, and even the future of artificial intelligence. That means the next $100 billion decision might not just affect markets. It could affect civilization. And maybe that's the real story here. Not the jets, not the palaces, not even the impossible luxury. The terrifying part is realizing that money at this scale stops behaving like money at all. It becomes leverage over the direction of the human race. So if one person could spend $100 billion reshaping the world, Who gets to decide what the world should become? And what happens when the next person becomes even richer?